بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته شباب. We studied the structure of circulatory system, okay? And we know circulatory system consists from three main organs or three main parts, which are what? Number one, heart, number two, blood vessels, and number three, blood, okay? And already we finished the studying of what? The structure of the heart, تمام؟ طيب now we start together studying what? Blood vessels. We know blood vessels consist from what? Consist from artery, vein, and blood capillaries, okay? And all of these blood vessels responsible for transfer blood from area to another, from part to what? To another, okay? طيب we have two blood vessels connected in direct way with heart, which are artery and vein. Okay, so artery and vein connected by direct way with heart, artery connected with ventricle, but vein with atrium, okay? And the location of blood capillaries found where? Found between cell, okay? So now we will study by more details the structure of artery and vein, okay? Artery and vein, both of them consists from three layers. What about of them? Number one, connective tissue, this external layer, this first layer, okay? And number two, muscles, okay? Do you think these muscles found why? To help the blood vessels to make what? Contract and relax, contraction and relaxation, to pump what? To pump blood inside the artery. طيب of course طبعا we have any control in the muscles, so is what? Voluntary or involuntary? Of course طبعا is what? Is involuntary, okay? But contains what? Nerve fiber to receive any message from what? From brain, okay? طيب and number three or last layer is what? Is epithelial cell. This epithelial cell is what? This inner layer, okay? So the blood connected or touched any layer from them, connected with connective tissue or muscles or epithelial cell, of course epithelial cells, okay? And so the epithelial cells contains elastic fiber. طب what's the importance of elastic fiber? Help the blood to move easily without any friction, without any resistance inside what? Inside the artery, okay? So the importance of the elastic fiber help or facilitate the movement of the blood inside what? Inside the blood vessels, okay? Type. So by this way, the artery consists from what? Three layers, from outer to inner by arrangement. Number one, connective tissue. Number two, involuntary muscles, and last one, epithelial cell, okay? Involuntary muscles contains what? Contains nerve fibers, okay? To help muscles contract, make contraction and relaxation. Type. The epithelial cell contains what? Contains elastic fiber. Also vein contains the same layers, the same. يعني also contains connective tissue, this outer layer, involuntary muscles, this middle layer, and inner layer is what? Is epithelial cell. But do you think the three layers which found in artery, the same thickness or the same shape exactly like which found in vein? Of course no, okay? But ask you a question. Do you think any one artery or vein needs second layer of muscles or need more muscles? Pay attention with me. We know heart pump what? Pump blood. So the blood move inside artery or vein? Yes, move inside the artery by more force. So why more force? Because this blood get out from the heart by more pump or more pushing, okay? طيب. Then what happened? The importance of the artery transfer this blood and receive it in all cells in my body, okay? And also we know when we move away from the heart, of course the rate or the range of these heartbeats or this pumping, of course what? Will decrease. So maybe the movement of the blood inside the artery which found away from heart becomes what? Becomes slow or becomes slower, okay? So what happened? So the artery make a contraction and relaxation like heart. Why? To make pump inside the artery. Why? To push blood inside it, okay? But what happened in vein? Vein transfer blood from cell to heart. So do you think the movement of the blood in any blood vessels move by more force, move by more pushing, move by more speed inside the artery or vein? Of course طبعا inside the artery, okay? So the thickness of the muscles in the artery is thicker. This is number one. Why? To make able to the pumping or the pushing of the blood. Number two, because the artery responsible for make pump like heart or make contraction and relaxation. Okay, so the muscular layer inside the artery is what is thick, but the vein is of course طبعا less than artery. طيب elastic fiber found where, remember me, elastic fiber found inside the inner layer. طب inner layer called what? Called epithelial cell, number 3. Okay, طيب what's the importance of elastic fiber? Epithelial cell is this layer which touch or which connect by direct way the blood. So this epithelial cell must become what? Smooth, not rough. Number 1, to cancel any resistance or collision between or friction between the blood and between the inner layer of the blood vessels. Why? To avoid formation any blood clot inside the vein or the artery. Okay, and facilitate its motion. طيب ask you the same question. The blood move in any vein, move in any vessel, artery or vein by more speed. Of course artery. يبقى maybe happen friction by more ratio in anyone, of course artery. So to avoid this friction يبقى of course found what? Elastic fiber. طب do you think the amount of elastic fiber in artery like vein? Of course no. طب anyone more? The elastic fiber in artery more. Why? Because the blood move in artery by more pushing, but the movement of the blood in vein is slower than the artery, so the amount of elastic fiber in vein is less. Okay, طيب of course the thickness of anyone is thicker, artery or vein. The same idea of thickness of ventricle and atrium, if you remember this question. Okay, the thickness of any chamber, upper chamber or lower chamber in heart is thicker, of course ventricle. Why? Because the ventricle push blood, okay, but the vein receive blood. So the wall of ventricle thicker than atrium. The same idea. Anyone push blood, artery or vein? Of course artery. So the thickness of wall in artery is thicker than vein. Okay? يبقى the wall in vein thinner than artery. Okay? طيب what about of diameter? What about of the cavity which found in the artery and the vein, which is the blood move inside it? Do you think the same have the same diameter, or there is one narrow and the other wide? طيب pay attention with me. Now we have two circles by this way. Okay, in one artery and in one vein. Until now we can't know. طيب okay, first one, this is what? This connective what? Connective layer or connective tissue. And number 2, muscular. Okay, be patient with me. Okay, the thickness of muscles in number 1, all this area, but the thickness of muscles in section number 2, this area only. So do you think in one artery? Of course number 1 artery, but 2 vein. Why? Because the muscular layer in artery or in 1 is thicker than 2. Okay, pay attention now. What is diameter? The diameter or the cavity? This area. So anyone narrow? Yes, the cavity in artery is narrow. Why? Because the thickness of muscles is wide or is thicker, but the diameter of what? Of vein is wide. Why? Because the thickness of muscles is less. So the relation between thickness of muscles and thickness of the cavity or diameter, of course طبعا inversely. By increasing thickness of muscles, what happens? The diameter becomes narrow and vice versa. Okay, so the diameter in artery is narrow because the thickness of wall and the muscular layer is thick, but the diameter in vein is wide because the thickness of wall or its muscular layer is thin. كده until now? Okay. So what about of direction of blood? Of course طبعا we know this information, we said it many times before that. The direction of the blood in arteries, artery carry blood from what to what? Yes, from what to what? From heart to all body cell. Okay, but in vein opposite, from cell to heart. Okay. طب if I ask you what about of what the type of blood in the both of them, the artery carry what blood? Of course طبعا this blood comes from heart to cells, so of course not carry carbon dioxide, so of course carry oxygen gas. And the type of blood which carry oxygen gas called what? Oxygenated. Excellent. But when deoxygenated. But we know the word of pulmonary change the type of blood. So all arteries carry oxygenated except pulmonary artery. Why? Because the pulmonary artery carries this blood from heart to lung. And we know the source of oxygen in my body already is lung. So of course the heart not give lung oxygen, sure, or give lung what? Carbon dioxide. Why? To help the body to get rid from this carbon dioxide. But what about in vein? Of course is the opposite. The vein carry the oxygenated blood, carbon dioxide gas, which is from glucose oxidation inside the cell. So the deoxygenated blood which comes from cell move to heart through vein, and also except what? Pulmonary vein. Why? Because this the pulmonary vein carry the blood which comes from heart, comes from lung, which comes from what? Comes from lung. That do you think the lung give to my body carbon dioxide? Of course no طبعا. Or carry what? Carry oxygen gas. So the whole vein deoxygenated except pulmonary vein carry oxygen, and the whole artery carry deoxygenated except pulmonary artery carry deoxygenated. Okay. طيب, what about of the location of the both of them in our bodies? We know the artery connected by direct way with ventricle اللي هي lower chamber, and the vein connected with our chamber which is called atrium. Okay. طب this connection with heart, طب inside my body found where? I will ask you the same question again. Okay. The blood move inside the artery by more pushing, more force, more speed. Okay. So its wall is thick, and also it found where? Found among muscles. Why among muscles? To what? To make able to resist the pushing of the blood. But what about of the pushing of the blood which found inside the vein? No, is by less force, less pushing, less speed. So what happened? So it found near to skin of body. Okay. Why? Because the blood not move by more force. Okay. So the location of the artery in my body among muscles, but vein near to what? Near to skin. Okay. طيب, we know the artery carry blood from heart to cell. How? By pushing heart for this blood. But question now, how the blood which found, for example, in cells which found in leg, how return back to heart? We know of course طبعا cell not push the blood because the cell not contains muscles, the cell not make contraction and relaxation. The question now, how the blood which found in our leg return back to heart, although this motion against gravity? So of course the blood move down with effect of the gravity, but also that no, it resists gravity and move up and raise up, move up until reach to heart, and also the cell not push this heart, this blood. So of course there is certain structure found where? Found inside the valve. Why? To not allow blood move down again with what? With gravity. Okay, or by gravity. This called what? Called valve. Called what? Called valve. Okay? Inside the artery, there is what? There is valve. Where in the starting of what? The starting connection of the artery with heart, which is called semilunar, and we know it. Okay? Semilunar, which found in the starting of the artery and pulmonary artery. Why? To not allow blood return back to ventricle. But along of artery, there is valve? No, there is no valve. Why? Because the heart to move with gravity and also move by pushing heart. Okay? طيب, what about of the vein? Vein need valve. Why? Yes, because maybe the blood move down with gravity. So there is valve. Why? Wait, I draw it. okay, this vein, and the blood move in this direction. So maybe the blood move down again. So inside the vein there is what? There is valve. Okay? By this way. Why? This blood, this valve allow, okay? This valve allow blood move through it and allow it to return back. No, why? Because it will close by this way. It will close by this way. So the blood can't move down again. Okay? So if I ask you how the blood return back to heart against gravity due to the presence of what? Due to the presence of valve. So if I ask you question, okay? Structure found in vein to not allow black flow of blood. Black flow of blood يعني move down again. يبقى of course what? Of course valve which is found as a long of vein. طب if I ask you other question, what's the importance of the valve which is found in vein? Of course طبعا it allow blood move in one direction from what to what? From cell to heart and not allow black flow again. Okay? So the presence of valve. The presence of valve in along of artery is not found, but in vein of course طبعا what? Of course found. Okay? طيب now I will ask you questions about the type of blood and the direction of them in some vein and artery. Okay? Please answer with me. Superior vena cava carry oxygenated or deoxygenated? Wait, we said before what? We said before all vein carry oxygenated or deoxygenated. Of course deoxygenated. طبعا except what? Except pulmonary vein. فالسuperior vena cava already carry deoxygenated blood. طب from what to what? All vein carry blood from what? From cells to heart. يبقى from cell to heart. Okay, the question number 2, aorta. Aorta example for what? Artery or vein? Of course artery. ومادام artery يبقى of course طبعا oxygenated blood. طب from what to what? Of course from heart to vein. To all body cell. Okay. طيب if I ask you from any chamber of heart you can answer. Of course مادام oxygenated يبقى atria or ventricle? Of course ventricle. ومادام oxygenated also يبقى left side or right side؟ يبقى also left. يبقى الأورطة carry oxygenated blood from left ventricle. Okay, to what? To cell. طيب question number 3. What about of pulmonary artery? Oh yes, we said before all artery carry oxygenated blood except pulmonary artery. يبقى pulmonary artery carry deoxygenated blood. From what to what? مادام artery of course get out from heart. ومادام pulmonary يبقى to lung. Okay. طيب any chamber from heart? Wait, artery يبقى atria or ventricle؟ لا of course ventricle. Yes. طيب deoxygenated left ولا right؟ لا right. يبقى comes from right ventricle. Okay. Question number 4. Inferior vena cava. Carry what? We said before all vein carry deoxygenated. يبقى inferior vena cava carry deoxygenated blood. From what to what? Yes, from cell to heart. طيب any chamber of heart atria or ventricle؟ لا مادام vein يبقى atria. اوكي. طيب ومادام deoxygenated يبقى left ولا right؟ of course right. يبقى right atria. طب pulmonary vein all vein carry deoxygenated. طيب but pulmonary change the type of blood. يبقى pulmonary vein carry yes oxygenated blood. طب from what to what؟ مادام pulmonary يبقى comes from cell. Yes cell, but any cell of lung يبقى lungs. To what? To heart. Any chamber of heart? Vein يبقى atria. Oxygenated يبقى left side extend يبقى left what? Left atria. طب last question here. hepatic vein. ايه ده؟ what about of hepatic vein؟ حتى يعني if we not know what about of hepatic vein بس no problem, the same answer. all veins carry deoxygenated blood يعني carbon dioxide. Okay. طب from what to what? of course from cell to heart. طب any chamber of heart؟ ما دام deoxygenated يبقى atria or ventricle. deoxygenated يبقى atria or ventricle. sorry deoxygenated left or right side يبقى right side. طيب vein يبقى what؟ يبقى atria. يبقى comes from what؟ comes from right vein. طب what about right atria؟ طب what about of hepatic vein? This vein which get out from what? From liver. Okay. Now we finish what the artery and the vein. But what about of the blood capillaries? Pay attention with me. Okay. طيب if we observe this image, okay, of course the red is what? Is artery. Blue is vein. So what found between them is what? These blood capillaries. Okay. يبقى blood capillaries is considered what? The end of artery and starting or beginning of what? Beginning of vein. يبقى ending of artery and starting of vein. Clear? Okay. طيب the blood capillaries connected by direct way with blood, sorry, with heart? Of course no. Okay. طب found where? Found among cells. Okay. So if we draw it by this way, this heart and this cell. Okay. And this artery get out from what? This artery get out from heart, and when close to cell is a branches by this way and surrounded by cell. Then what happened? These blood capillaries collected again by this way and forming another blood vessels which called vein. So the direction of the blood here from heart to cell through artery, then from cell to heart through vein. Okay. طب do you think the blood capillaries like we said found around the cells? طب do you think its thickness is thick or thin? Of course طبعا is tiny, is very thin. يعني of course طبعا thinner than vein. It's the thickness of its wall reach to what? 0.0000001 what millimeter. Okay. يعني equal 0.01 micron. So is what? So is very thin. Why thin? To what? To facilitate the passing of the oxygen and food from what? From the blood to cell, and also to receive the carbon dioxide and wastes from cell to it. So the wall of blood capillaries is very thin and contains tiny holes to allow the passing of the oxygen and the food and wastes. And also, like we know, the plasma membrane which surrounds the cell also is very thin and also contains tiny holes in the plasma membrane. Why? To the same function. Okay. So by this way, facilitate what? The exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide and exchange of what? Food and wastes. Okay. طيب what about of its diameter? Its diameter also is very small, from 7 to 10 what? Microns. So is what also? So is very narrow. طيب do you remember the 3 layers which connect artery and vein? Of course yes. What out of them? The outer layer is connective, the middle is muscles or muscular layer, and the inner is epithelial which contain elastic fiber. Of course طبعا there is no 3 layers in blood capillaries because it's very thin. So there is what? Only 1 layer. But do you think any one from them found inside the blood capillaries? Do you think need connective or need epithelial more or need muscular? Of course it need what? Need epithelial cell. Why? هي خدوا بالكم يا جماعه البلاد capillaries found near to the cell, so it not need muscles to push it now already beside cell, and also not need connective, but it need what? Need epithelial. طب why need epithelial cell? To also decrease the resistance or the friction which may be happen between the blood and the inner layer of blood capillaries. So it also contains what? Consists from what? From 1 layer, from anyone, from epithelial layer only. يبقى blood capillaries not contains connective and not contains muscular or contains what? Epithelial only. And its diameter from 7 to 10 micron. It's a thickness 0.01 micron. You think you need valve? Of course no, not already beside the cell. Also there is no valve inside it like artery. The artery not contains valve along with it, but contains valve in the beginning of it when get out from ventricle. Okay, and also it considered what? the ending of artery and the starting of vein. طب what about of the direction of the movement of the blood؟ هي طبعا from what؟ from blood capillaries to cell or from the artery. انا دلوقتي بتكلم على direction of the blood، يبقى from the artery to cell and the cell to vein، يعني from the artery to vein. اوكي طيب what about of the type of the blood؟ هي فعلا contains the two types of the blood. The blood capillaries which found what the ending of the artery, these oxygenated carry oxygen and that comes from the artery, and the blood capillaries which form vein carry carbon dioxide gas. Okay, so carry the both of blood is the ending of the artery oxygen, and the starting of the vein is what? Carbon dioxide gas. And like we said before, found where it's spread in the space which found among cells. Okay, so by this way we finished what? The structure of the all blood vessels, artery, vein and blood capillaries, and we made comparison among them.